Welcome to Indie Business Club, the podcast for independent creatives, freelancers, founders, and business owners. She's Mel Barfield.
And he's Ben McKinney, and we're both copywriters and business owners sharing tips and advice we've picked up along the way. This episode is called Got Your Money, and it's our second look at pricing. On the show, we'll discuss how to price up your services as an indie business owner, the case against and for working for free, and how to deal with client pushback if they deem you too expensive.
And as always, we have a voice note on today's theme and Mel's favourite part of the show, Your Friend and Mine, where we shout out someone in our network that we think is great. We've talked about pricing before, Mel. We're going again?
We're going again. We'll just assume no one listened to that because it was our very first episode when we were tiny little baby podcasters with terrible audio quality.
Yes, I was going to say, don't listen back to it. The sound quality's not up to scratch, is it?
No need to listen back. We'll cover everything again. But yeah, pricing seems to be one of those things that, especially for new, I think it's something that comes with age. No, that's the wrong word, but with experience as a freelancer, it gets slightly less horrible trying to price up your services and stuff. But it's definitely something that new freelancers almost always complain about, like how difficult it is. Because what is the going rate? What should they be charging? Are they going to be laughed out of the building or the Zoom call if they go too high, or are they going to do themselves out of cash if they go too low? So it's a tricky one.
You say that, but I've worked for myself for 20 years. And just recently, I've changed the way I do something around pricing and billing. So it's something that something I've learned recently, and something that I wasn't doing, and it seemed really obvious now. But yeah, it's made a bit of a difference. So we'll probably come on to that a bit later on. I might not reveal. I'm definitely going to talk about the thing, but I might not say this is the thing that I've learned recently. I'm a bit embarrassed that I haven't been doing it better.
Oh, fair enough. Will you tell me afterwards? Will you tell me off air? Because I'm nosy.
Off air.
Well, one of the ways to set your prices, I think Cindy Gallup talks about this, is like just say the highest number you can say out loud without laughing. I'm not sure if that's a great policy for brand new freelancers because it doesn't really give you a steer on how to like price up the value that you're bringing to people. But we certainly go for at least not making it the lowest that you'd accept without resenting it. That's the kind of the lower end of the test when you're thinking about pricing. And I know that we've probably both done work before that we've ended up resenting because we priced it too low.
100%, yeah. Especially when I was starting out, and when the freelance copywriting side of things started to kind of come through, where people were finding me and saying, "Oh, can you do this project for me?" The main thing is at that point I would let them set the rates rather than me set the rates. But yes, definitely did work where after a period of time, 100% resented the rate that I was working for.
We mentioned letting them set the rates. My ideal scenario is the client comes with a really nice big budget and tells me straight away what that budget is and exactly what they expect. And actually at Copy or Die, you do that with your writers. And I've appreciated that as one of the writers you've used. And I think that's steered me towards putting it on my briefing form. So when people want to work with me, I put my day rate for context, and I put my one-to-one rate, like the hour or 90-minute rate. And I put in there, if you haven't yet sorted out your brief or you need to get further clarity, this is my one-to-one rate, to really set that expectation that they'll either come knowing what they want, or if they want me to help them find out what they want, they're going to have to pay for some of my time. Can't give it all away for free. And yeah, that then is an instant disqualifier for anyone that's like, whoa, how much? So I do a bit of pre-qualification or disqualification by doing that on my briefing form. And I also have a question, what is the budget for this work? And 9 times out of 10, that gets left blank by the client, which is fair play. They want to do the dance.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's frustrating, though. I mean, I can speak on kind of both sides of the coin for this one. So like you said, we do the same. We'll always ask a client what their budget is. It's really rare that we get a direct answer on that one. And it would make such a big difference at the start of that dance, like you call it, because it can remove one whole step. Because if the budget, if they say we have X budget and we can't do anything within that budget, that's a very easy way for us to go, we can't help you, but we know somebody that can. And if the budget is acceptable, then immediately we're on board and thinking, right, okay, this is great. We're motivated. We know what the expectations are now. We can match up our services with the budget. And it always leads to kind of more successful projects. On the other side of things, you mentioned us giving our budget for a job to the freelance writer that we work with. That I'm glad to hear that works, because we never want to see like we're taking the mick, but also we want to be able to match up jobs to freelancers in terms of experience, in terms of what they charge to an extent. It's not always our guiding factor, but if we know your day rate, for example, we don't tend to price those projects on day rate. But if we know that you as a freelancer have a certain day rate, and we kind of expect it to take a certain amount of time, it won't be that we kind of think, right, your day rate is X.
It's not a straight maths thing.
Yeah, we're not doing an equation where we're thinking your day rate is X. We think this is going to take Y amount of days, and work it out that way. But we'll get an idea of whether it's worth us approaching that freelancer and saying, does this work for you? Because we'll know what their expectation is in terms of rates as well. So yeah, I think more transparency around pricing would be a great thing. And I think like you said,
helps everyone.
And I get why perhaps a client won't be mega keen to share their budget at the start, because honestly, a lot, depending on the type of clients that you go for, a lot won't have a specified budget. The amount of times, it's more so as a freelancer, when I've said to people, have you got a budget? What do you want to spend? And they'll go, well, how much does it cost? Because they don't really have any indication of the value, perhaps. Although that's an issue if they haven't got an indication of the value that you're offering, but more so kind of the indication of how much they should spend on, especially with marketing. If it's something that they're not doing regularly and they're doing as a one-off, website copy, website redevelopment, that kind of thing, perhaps they don't have any idea of what they're going to be paying and what they need to pay. And most people will have an idea of what they're comfortable paying, though, which is kind of where
it's like, well I'll know it when I see it. It's like, if you tell me a number, I'll have a gut reaction to whether that's something I'm comfortable with. I've had one situation where my absolute dreamy unicorn client came to me with their exact budget and exactly what the deliverables were, and it was just wonderful. And they were happy to pay me up front 100%, but I didn't want that. We've talked about this before, about how I need the carrot at the end. I need the 50% up front and the 50% at the end. Worth saying really quickly, always get a deposit if you possibly can. And two reasons for that. One is there's a commitment shown from the client, but the other thing is that you can stress test their payment processes. And that's especially important if you're having if you've got a client who's overseas and you need to do different banking stuff. So I just wanted to get that in there, that you absolutely should be. Yeah,
deposit at the front should be non-negotiable. Yeah. I'm continually bemused by your reluctance to accept 100% of the fee up front.
Look,
I think for me,
I think for me, from
experience, where there's going to be a hold up is going to be with payment at the end. However you do it, however rock solid your process is, whether you do 50% at the front, 25 on delivery of the first draft, final 25%.
That's too much admin for me.
That's too much admin for me as well. Yeah, if we split it, it will be 50% at the front, 50% at completion. But if there's going to be a hold up, it will be then, because you've done the work and you're probably sort of exhaling and having a bit of a decompressed time.
Oh, they're dead to me after that.
And maybe you haven't
forgotten their names.
Perhaps you haven't put your invoice in straight away when you should have done. As the client, they're taking your work and either implementing it or moving forward with whatever campaign they've got going on. And you're now at the back of their mind. So that, for me, that's an issue, because then that's when you're going to have to chase at the end of your payment terms, because they haven't paid it.
Maybe
if you can get it in right at the end when you're still talking, then that's probably when you're at the front of the mind and you might get paid and it can all work really smoothly. But
I have 7-day payment
upfront,
terms.
Love it.
A 7-day payment term. So it's not like I'm putting in my final invoice and then going, I'll just wait for a whole month and see if they remember to pay me. I have 7-day payment terms.
And hopefully the clients that you attract and work with are respectful of that and can do it. But I think from a legal point of view, they have got those 30 days if they want to use them before they legally have to pay you. So
I don't know. I don't know the rules on that. You're looking confident, but I thought that you can set your own. But if you don't set any, then it's like the default is 30. But if you've set it in your contract that it's 7, then it's 7. We don't know. We're not legal advisors.
Even so, if you still have to chase at 7 because they haven't, then that's a round of admin that you're having to do.
You don't want that.
Kind of unpaid. So
that's
anyway,
when you click the button
take
that
payments
says
up front.
send
If somebody
an
wants to pay you
automatic.
up front, they'll just take it and put 50% in a
No, I'm
little
not
savings
going to.
account. Pay yourself at the end of it.
I'm not going to do it. I just can't. I can't. I need it. I need the motivation. Listener, please let us know how you feel about deposits. Are you on Team Ben or Team Mel? Do you need the carrot of payment at the very end to keep you motivated and focused? I know that I should have intrinsic motivation, but I'm very externally motivated with these things.
I think the title of this podcast, the theme, Got Your Money, I think that says it all.
Can you sing it? We were listening.
Go, you gotta give me that money.
And do not kill that bit. Anyway,
we're going to need a
moving
link to the
swiftly.
song just in case anybody doesn't know it. Anyway.
It's by ODB featuring Khalees. Not strictly speaking an indie hit, but we like it. Some of the lyrics did not age well. Some of the lyrics were not good at the time, to be fair. Anyway, can we talk about when you're doing the quote? Let's go back a few steps. So, ideal scenario, they come to you with an Sorry, I'm just reliving that moment in my head. Anyway, we've talked about how ideally someone comes to you with a big fat budget and tells you exactly what they want. Realistically, that'll happen once in a freelance career, maybe twice if you're lucky. So if we're talking about how we price our own projects, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can look at the going rate in your industry. We're lucky that pro copywriters do an annual survey that then comes up with like the industry average, which is a good indicator. Some might see it as a bit of an anchor that makes you charge less than perhaps you could get from certain clients. You know, maybe it works both ways.
I think it's great when you're starting out.
Really
I think
good.
it's
when
great
you're
to see
starting
that number when you're starting out. But yeah, I wonder and slightly worry that as you develop in your career, whether that does exactly what you're saying and kind of brings people back to the mean rather than sort of encourages them to price.
Well, I used to just whack a bit more, like 5 or 10 quid on my day rate each time I edited anything else on my website. I'd just be like, I'll just slap on another little bit. Some people review their rates every year, but I think I've said this before on the podcast that I quite quickly bumped my rates up because I think you've also, as well as looking at things like experience, number of years you've done it, you can also look at the quality of work that other people are producing and use that as a bit of a gauge. And if you know that if you know somebody's producing really mediocre stuff, but they're charging a really high fee consistently, then that can give you confidence to up your fee as well.
Yeah, I think
that sounds.
I mean, raising prices.
Sorry, mediocre people.
Raising prices is something that a lot of small business owners struggle with. I think partly it comes to valuing themselves, which is why that average price, in our case of copywriting, that average industry price is really useful at one stage in your career, but it can be then limiting at another, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's really important to raise your prices regularly, though. Even a little bit. I think when you hear the term raise your prices, you feel like it has to go up a big chunk, but actually it doesn't have to be a massive amount. I think it's the intention and the mindset that you have as the business owner that plays a big part in it. And I get it. I mean, if you've got repeat clients and they're loyal to you and you're loyal to them, it can feel like a betrayal to do it, but it's so important. And the reason why is because the longer you leave your prices the same or go without raising them, if let's say you've got a retainer client or, like I say, a loyal client, the more that customer, if they're repeat, feels entitled then to that rate. So then eventually, if you do put it up, and that could be years later, I've had so this is the thing really, I've had a client which I've had for a long time, and I've got two separate clients that I've had both for a long time. One of them, I arranged with them at the start that I would put the price up by 2% every year. This was a long-term monthly relationship. That every April the price would go up 2%.
And then they're expecting that, and they know it. And
it's just in, so I don't have to think about it. And there are times when, due to things like minimum wage and other kind of things, costs going up in other areas of the business, I've had to say to them, I need to go up a bit more. It's a much easier conversation then, because they're used to the price going up, and they're business owners, so they know that, you know, businesses have to be profitable. But on the one where I haven't been putting the price up, I've been loyal to them, but it's a much harder conversation. You've been keeping it low for a good customer, but then it creates a barrier, because they have a level of ownership of my rate. And this is the important thing about setting your rates rather than have them being set for you by a client, because they feel a level of ownership in terms of what I should be charging, and it doesn't work. That does not then lead to like harmonious business relationships, unfortunately.
Harmonious business like relationships. TM. One other thing I want to say about when you're pricing up projects, we've talked about this at length before, so I won't go into it too much, but there's that argument of project price versus day rate. Because as long as you're charging a day rate, you are charging for units of your time, and it's hard to then scale your business if you're only ever being charged by, you know, pounds per minute.
Trading time for money, essentially.
Trading time for money. But if you're pricing up and doing a project price, I would always advise against splitting the bill into an itemized list of like what each element of the project costs. So it might be like that you're doing, we always use copywriting as the example, but say you're doing web copy is an amount, and then some social post is another amount. Instead of listing them out separately and giving the client the opportunity to go, oh, actually maybe we'll just drop the social media posts or whatever, then you're basically inviting them to pick off a menu. And I think if they've come to you and they said, we need this, this and this, and that they've said up front that's all they want, all of that stuff, they need all of that stuff, then giving them one price for it all is a lot better, because you're not opening yourself up to be talked down on price. And actually maybe that's a good thing to move on to next, about whether you should give discounts ever.
Yeah, I just on that itemization thing, I'm broadly in agreement with you, but I think one thing we found at Copy or Die, when Dave and I have been putting prices together, is that for a larger client, if it's for a long-term project, if the price is relatively a lot of money, actually breaking those things down does actually show the value of each little step. So it doesn't necessarily weaken your argument. It can almost strengthen it, because if they want, I mean, that'll be the time when potentially, can you do it for cheaper, might be discussed. But actually saying, this is discovery. Do we have to do discovery? Discovery is a really important part of it. We can't do the rest of the process without it. This is how much we value it as. And we found that quite successful in eliminating those kind of tricky conversations at that stage, halfway through the pricing, perhaps before the project is agreed. Like, oh, that's a bit more than our budget. Can we chop anything off? Actually saying, look, this is how much we value it as, because it's really an important part, and we can't then do the rest of the steps without it, has actually strengthened our kind of argument on certain things there. So I get it. I think maybe as a business owner of a business of one, I think you're exactly right that giving people almost a menu can lead to people going, well, I don't want that and I don't want this. So there's a little balance to it, but I think that comes to that valuing yourself and being the person that sets the rate and not having it dictated to you. I think that comes down to mindset more than anything.
Yeah, because even as an independent business of one, you'll have some clients where you'll feel confident that doing it the way you just said, of having it listed out to show the value. There'll be some clients you'll be confident that they won't then go, especially if they've given you a broad indication of their budget in advance, then they're way less likely to go, oh, I don't actually, maybe we'll take off this bit because we want to save money. But yes, a lot of it comes down to your instincts on what the client's actually like.
And like I said, if they say that, if they go, well, we don't want that bit, then our response is, well, we can't do the rest of it then. So it's having that confidence to say, this isn't a negotiation. We're not showing you this because we want you to negotiate and take bits off. But it's saying that we are confident enough to say, we can't do the rest of it. So you either have it or you don't. And we're always, it's not that we're absolutely hard and fast and would say we never, ever discount or never tweak a price or work with a client. We'd always try and reduce the scope of work if a client has budgetary issues and needs to fit in. It's not just a case of saying, right, we'll do it for a discounted price, but it's us making that decision and in line with the value that we think we're offering.
And I say to my one of my retainer clients about like if they want to do a special offer or something, I'm like, you don't want to be like DFS where people wait for you to have a sale or a discount before they buy anything. So I think there's discounting stuff needs to be a very discreet thing that you do. If you're selling your creativity basically as a service, I think you need to be very cautious and discreet about discounting, because otherwise, if you do it too much, then people can come to expect it and then resent paying. I would never you wouldn't ever buy a sofa at full price from DFS. You'd resent it. You're like, why am I doing this? I could get it cheaper. So yeah, and I know that you talk as well about. Sorry, I don't know what that was. Something just fell off my desk.
And kill that bit.
And kill that bit. Yay, we got one in. And I know you talk about how price shouldn't be the... No, I've forgotten where I was going with it. I got distracted by and kill this bit too. I know what I'm going to say next. Just hang on. Just hold fire. Ben, I'm going to give you a scenario. Ignore the actual numbers because I know this isn't what you charge necessarily. But would you rather have, for ease of maths, because I need maths to be easy, would you rather have one client at $5,000 or 5 clients at $1,000 each?
Oh, I'm such a fence sitter, man. I'm not sure I can give you a straight answer.
Okay, let me do a different one.
It depends on how much hassle those 5 clients are.
5 clients paying $1,000 each, or 2 clients paying 2.5 each.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think
these are not indicative of
the five paying
rates.
The 5 paying £1,000 each. Then if one goes, it's easier to replace, isn't it? And if you're replacing a bigger chunk of your turnover, if you're reliant on a bigger chunk of your turnover or being through 1 or 2 clients, then that can leave you in a weak position as a business. So that's probably the right answer. But it may be that those 2 clients are really, really long term, really easy to work with, and the work that you do for them is tremendously profitable. So I suppose all things being equal, you'd probably want 5 clients.
I'd go for the 2.
It would give you a little bit more admin, but yeah, honestly, that's the way I've built my businesses, is having, it's probably not a model that you would want to copy too much, but in the businesses that I've run, I've had a small amount of clients that make up a big chunk of my turnover. But because of the relationship I've been able to build with them, they've lasted a really long time. The issue comes if they have some external things happen where that affects their relationship with you, or maybe they can't use you as much, then suddenly you might have to scrabble around and think, I need to replace a bigger chunk of the work than I'd like to. I think a little principle I would probably suggest to follow around pricing projects and thinking about that in terms of how many customers you want and type of customers you want is, quite often when a lead comes in, it's very easy to get in the mindset that the end goal is getting that work in from that lead. And actually the end goal when pricing a project should be what that business will do to your overall business. I haven't said that very well, but what that work will do to your overall business and what the end goal of your business is. Mm-hmm. So
thinking
it might be that
term and strategic.
Yeah, absolutely. So because if your focus is a lead has come in and I have to close it whatever happens, actually that might lead you to make a decision that doesn't support the reason you set your business up in the first place. It might be that you want to work in a specific industry with a specific type of client, or it might be that you want to earn more so you can work a 4-day week or something like that. And actually, if you only focus on the end goal of this lead has come in, what can I do to close it? Whether that's discounting, whatever, you can end up making the wrong decision, I suppose, for you. So I think having a goal for your business and having a sort of an overall set of principles as to how you work with people, looking at the lead through that filter rather than just what can I do to close this sale and get this amount of work in regardless of the price. That's where we talked before in a different episode about not competing on price. And that's one of the kind of principles behind it, is because then you're far much more in control of what your business looks like and how you run it and everything. So something to think about.
Yeah. And it's a really important point about the lifestyle. And actually we've got a voice note that mentions this that I think would be a good time to come on to that next. The lifestyle that you want. So if you've got a really easygoing client that doesn't pay as well as other clients, but is so enjoyable to work with and is in a niche or industry that you really find interesting, then if you go into that kind of scenario with well, I'm worth this much, so you have to pay that, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because it should be, like you say, about the broader business goals and your life goals of what you want your week to look like, rather than it being all about the price.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a nice little segue. Should we go into the voice note?
Smooth, isn't it? It's like we've been doing this for 21 episodes.
Today's voice noter is Phil Budd. Phil is a business coach who helps business owners and management teams find clarity and focus to improve performance. He's also the founder of the High Performers Academy, an online coaching platform designed to drive high performance in the workplace by helping teams develop their management skills and deliver better results. All that makes him perfect for today's voice note. Let's hear what he had to say about pricing.
Ben and Mel, Phil Budd, business coach here. Thought I'd share a message around my thoughts when it comes to freelancers and what they charge. This is a common thing that I come up and see as a coach regularly when I speak to freelancers, is what do you charge when you first set your business up? And actually, in many instances, when a freelancer has been established for many years, if they've undercharged in those first early years, it can feel really challenging to put your rates up to reflect your experience and the value you offer. I think the first thing I'd say around this is really around the emotion that we put when it comes to money. And this is the key limiting factor I find when talking to freelancers, that freelancers' perception of what a good hourly rate is and what they should charge is massively governed by their own feelings towards money and a fear of either losing an opportunity or potentially having the perception of charging too much. And that's one of the key things to work on when you're first a freelancer, which is understanding that why a business will work with you is because of the services that you're able to offer, the quality of what you can offer, and also an element of your experience of what you've done previously. That will affect really the value or the perceived value of what you can offer. And in some instances, when you're first starting as a freelancer, there is a tendency or a leaning towards maybe doing something either free of charge or reducing your rate in order to get experience. Now, whilst there can be a justification for that, the experience I've seen around it is that it does more harm than good. And being confident around your pricing, confident around your value, well, the right prospect, the right opportunity will see that and they'll want to engage and want to use you. So I think really it comes down to understanding what your value is, understanding what your time is worth, feeling confident and credible about what you're able to deliver, and sticking to it. And if you do, then as a freelancer, you'll build a business where you are trading time for money, but in a way that gives you the lifestyle that you want and also generates the income that you want.
Thank you, Phil. To find out how Phil can help your business, connect with him on LinkedIn, and you'll find a link to book a free 1-hour coaching session on his LinkedIn profile, which we'll link to in the show notes. What did you think of that, Mel?
I love that Phil, thanks Phil, by the way, hello. I love that he mentioned emotion and like the mindset thing about money, because I think that's something that holds so many people back. This idea that it's a bit gross to want money, it's a bit kind of icky to want to do well, and there's this feeling of like knowing your worth, but also know your place.
That
and I
fear
think
of
that
overcharging, almost like, who
being
am I if
judged by other people in your
Absolutely,
industry,
yeah.
like who does she think she is? She's only just started. Why is she charging that much? And that's where you've got to really like mind your own business and not get drawn into thinking you have to. As an example, I won't say who it is, but there's a really brilliant freelance that has a very, very affordable power hour, and I think some people might look at that and go, I couldn't possibly charge more than her because she's brilliant and famous and amazing. But actually, she chooses to do that because she wants to attract a certain like level of person to work with who's just starting out. So she purposely makes it affordable. Same with your friend of mine, Bonnie Harrington, who wants to work with small indie businesses in Bristol. So she'll sometimes, if they tick all of the boxes of the kinds of clients she wants to work with, she'll charge them in a way that they can afford, but she'll also work for higher end clients. And so you have to be a bit dynamic about how you price stuff and make sure that it's that thing we were just saying earlier about allowing you to work with the kind of clients you really want to work with. That has to be something that comes into play. But equally on the flip side, the other end of the big sexy clients that have massive budgets, I think we can be our own worst enemy of kind of talking ourselves, oh well, no, I couldn't possibly, little old me. And the mindset about wanting money is a bit.
Yeah, and that starts in the early days of running your business, because if you think, I'm new, I've got to get work in, I'm going to undercharge effectively in those early years, this is what Phil said, then it's much harder then to resolve that later on. And actually, if you've got an idea of who your ideal client is, the price should probably be based on them and what they expect to pay rather than you and how much value you see in yourself. We talked about that on the previous show about pricing, didn't we? In terms of when people start out, a lot of the advice that you read is, value yourself, work out your own value. And actually it is a difficult thing to do, especially if you've just worked it out. But taking that kind of lead from who are my ideal clients first, and what are they looking to pay when it comes to the service that I offer, perhaps that's a better way of setting your rates early, so that then you can, because we know lots of freelancers, and I know lots of people who have gone down a route at the start that then later on where they're saying, I'd really like to work with this kind of client, but it feels like such a big step away then. Like, I couldn't possibly make that jump to working with the type of client that I actually would like to work with, because of the way I've priced myself early. The type of client that I get leaves me miles away. So
that's
really
the
interesting
beauty of being
points.
Freelance or like in charge of your own business, is that you get, if you do want to pivot, for want of a better term, you can do that. I like the way that Phil also mentioned about presenting yourself and presenting your price with confidence and credibility. And it's the credibility bit, I think, that you can do an awful lot of work to show that you're credible in that space. So having testimonials on your website, providing loads of social proof of happy clients, and making sure that you deliver a really top quality service, even if it's a lower paying client, and then you get a really good testimonial from it that proves that you're good at what you're doing.
That goes back to the straight face test that you said at the start. What's your rate, the highest you can quote without kind of laughing or breaking. It's not that, the reason behind that and practicing that is not so that you can feel like you're taking the mick out of a client. It's just so that you're showing your confidence in yourself. I like that as well from Phil. That was good.
Yeah. Another thing I want to just explore a little bit is retainers, because I've always thought of retainers as being, well, you be a bit looser on the day rate that you'd normally charge because of the fact it's a commitment to ongoing work. You can afford to drop your day rate, perhaps, in theory. But then I heard an alternative view of how you should actually be paid a higher day rate on retainers, because you're committing so much time that it means you'll have to say no to big, beautiful, amazing, high budget projects that come along. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point of view. Yeah, I can see that as a company that might be signed up to a retainer, that I would like to take that attitude, but also as a person and a business owner that might use somebody on retainer, I would quite like the alternate view.
For context, I recently got a retainer with Copy or Die. I'm not like I'm not trying to get a gotcha moment where I make you agree to something on the podcast.
No, it's good though. This is a really interesting point of view, and I think especially for listeners that a retainer can be seen as kind of like almost like a golden goose, I suppose, because if you can protect your income for a period of time, if that's 6 months, 12 months, that's incredibly valuable as a small business owner, because when you start working for yourself, the thing you lose is that regular paycheck, isn't it, at the end of the month, where you know that a certain amount of money is coming into your bank. So that's the payoff on one side of it, that as a freelancer or company of one, to have a retainer where you know guaranteed that in 6 months' time you're also getting a certain amount of money in, the same as you are now. I can understand why you would kind of favour that type of client by thinking, right, you can save a little bit on my day rate if you book me up in advance. But you're absolutely right. When you go on retainer, you do protect time within your month that you then can't allocate to another client. And if a lead came in that didn't fit in, it might be that you would choose to say no and stay with the retainer. So yeah, I'm going to sit on the fence on this one as well, actually. And
that's fair.
So I can absolutely see both sides of the coin.
I wasn't trying to squeeze money out of you, don't worry. I currently, and I do say currently because I don't see retainers as they're in no way are they as reliable in terms of your income as a contracted employed role would be, obviously, because they're a fixed amount of months normally. They're up for review. They're not. It's not like you've suddenly taken a permanent part-time job. It's not the same thing. I used to be really anti-retainer because I felt like they were too restrictive, and I didn't want to tie myself to one employer or client. But now, at the moment, I have around about 2 days a week committed. So if a client came along and had this massive project and they said, well, we need you for 2 weeks, starting next month, it's going to be, I mean, you know me, I'd probably manage to fit it in by not having any sleep.
I'm sure you would.
But just imagine for a moment that I'm a responsible person that takes good care of their well-being. And I'd have to say no to that because I'd be like, I can't possibly fit it all in. So yeah, that's where I thought it was quite an interesting take.
Yeah, no, it is.
That I hadn't really thought of before. But I'll still take I'd still favour retainers for the, I've done a total U-turn, having been totally anti-retainer. Now I'm like, yeah, the retainers. Because
it's where business growth happens though, isn't it? Because business growth happens when there's predictable income. And that's what a retainer gives you. You can, like say, you know that in whatever your retainer's for, all being well, in a certain amount of time, you're still bringing in that money. So then, you know, whether you're looking to grow, whether you're looking to outsource or do all those kind of things, you can start making those decisions when you know that predictable income is coming in. And if you're not making, you know, those decisions, even if it's from a family basis, you know that, you know, you've got that money kind of banked for the next 6 months or whatever. So
also frees up the brain space a little bit because you don't, we've gone off on a tangent, but let's carry on going off on the tangent because I think it's really important to make sure you don't stop marketing yourself. If you suddenly end up in a position where you've got retainers keeping you ticking along, absolutely keep marketing yourself. But what it does do is free up. You don't have to do it as much or spend so much brain space on thinking about, oh no, I need to make sure I've got a project lined up for next month because my pipeline is dry. You don't have to do that. So then if you've got regular retained work, it frees up more time to, so for example, I'm going to now be focusing a lot more on promoting the speaker side of what I do because I'm not going, I need to make sure I'm drumming up a project because I've got a little bit of steady income. So if you're like I used to be and you hate the idea of a retainer, just be open-minded about it. Maybe you'll like it. Now, we've talked a little bit about how we shouldn't be DFS and discount all the time, but how can you stop your prospective clients from pushing back on price, Ben? What are your tactics?
You're probably never going to stop it completely, I wouldn't think. But I think it's probably important to categorise the type of pushback that you might get from a prospective client. I always feel like I can understand if budgetary issues are genuine. If a client comes to you and says, we'd really like to work with you, you give them a price and they say, we just don't have that kind of budget at the moment, what can we do? Then I'm usually quite willing to explore that and see if what we can do. Because I think then if you can reduce the scope of the work, that can be a nice, there's probably a happy medium somewhere. Maybe there's not, but if there is, then you can both get something good out of it, can't you? You get to work with a client that's happy to work with you and grateful. They still value you. They're still willing to spend money with you, but just to the tune of whatever their budget is. And you still get to get that experience and get the job under your belt. If it's somebody who just thinks, no, that's too expensive, or they have a certain expectation of what they should pay for what your services are, then once again, you've gone into that kind of realm where people are setting your rates for you. And that's a massive red flag for me. There would be quite a quick end to the conversation there. But in terms
you did say earlier though, that there are some projects where you can't reduce the scope without ending up delivering something that isn't high enough quality. So for example, if a business has a tone of voice that's all over the place and you can see that has to be sorted out before they can have their new website copy done, or whatever the thing is, that's where the trust me, I'm a professional bit kind of comes in of saying, trying to negotiate and explain to them, well, if you can only afford some of the overall project now, then I strongly recommend you start with, for example, in this example, tone of voice, because that will be the foundation and the bedrock for anything you do in the future. And then when you do have more budget allocated, then it's otherwise that's where you have to kind of show your professional expertise, I guess, and say, I'm not willing to just do some web copy without doing the groundwork, because it won't be effective and it won't be good enough, and you won't get good value of money.
Yeah, and I think that's, especially if they're a corporate client or a bigger business, they'll have, that budget will last for a certain period, and then there'll be a new budget. So it may be that you can split part of the job, exactly like you're saying, over those budgetary periods. You kind of, with that though, you're getting into the point of like, how much admin is it worth for you to get the sale? I think that's what it always comes back to, and going back to the idea of what the goal of your business is. Like, if it's to work with clients like that, and you can see that happening down the line, don't forget, if you've done that, then you've got hopefully a satisfied client who is going to come back to you. You're going to be the first name on their mind when they've got renewed budget or they need something else. So it can work well for the future as well, in that sense. I think in terms
integrity.
Of definitely, I think so. And I think business is all about relationships, isn't it? Especially in the way that we work, kind of as freelancers. Obviously, we now kind of run the agency, but it's still about relationships, isn't it? And it's still about creating relationships that you hope people will come back, because they're the easiest sales, aren't they? If somebody comes back to you and knows that they're ready to work with you, there's no easier sale than that. So I think it's important to have a little bit of flexibility, but you do still have to be able to stand up for yourself and not just allow yourself to constantly be pushed.
Yeah,
if we go back,
go on.
Well, just going back to episode 1, the voice note in that one was from our friend Tom Garfield from Brand New Notebook, who talked about making sure that your price was never a surprise.
Yeah. So
having some indication of your price on your website or on whatever marketing material people are going to read. Doesn't have to be the exact price. It can be an idea, a ballpark, a from kind of price, so that the client comes to you with a kind of expectation of what it could be. And then you're able to obviously kind of understand the brief and really tailor an exact price in the future. But I think when a client comes to you with no idea of what the price is, that's usually when dangerous. Those difficult discussions happen.
And then you both sides are wasting their time. Yeah. It's not just that they've wasted your time, you've kind of wasted theirs in a way by not giving them a clear enough indication about what they should expect to be the next steps and what the ballpark figure is going to be. I do understand why people are a bit nervous about or reluctant to put their price on their website, because it is so variable when it's creative work. Though you can package up some things and productize and have a set off the peg price for things, most of the time you need to know exactly what the scope of the work is, and then price accordingly. But if you can give a broad ballpark figure between X and Y, then at least it's going to, we talked earlier about disqualifying people that aren't suitable. At least it does that and stops you wasting time.
Pricing is such a big it's such a broad topic, isn't it? I think we've spoken about it before, but I can see
we're going to do some mini
either another episode or some B-sides about. You mentioned
Yep.
productizing there, kind of like if you're a creative industry, how do you package up a product that you can then maybe sell a bit more easily? I think that's a discussion in itself.
Yeah.
Working for free. Do you work for free when you're new, or do you have an offer which is
That's a
really low
contentious
ticket?
topic.
Yeah, it is. So I think we probably haven't got time to talk about all those things today, but
No.
we can come back to those in B-sides, can't we?
Absolutely. You bet we will. Is it time for my favourite part?
Let's do your favourite part of the show, Mel. It's your friend and mine.
Today's Your Friend of Mine is Laura Bean. She's an internal communications lead and freelance copywriter and content writer who helps brands tell clearer, stronger stories to build trust inside and outside the business. Laura is a friend of the show who very kindly alerted me to an audio error on one of our recent YouTube videos. And she should know because she has her own YouTube channel called Creative Little World, where she puts out really useful stuff to help freelancers. So I just want to say thank you so much, Laura, because you had our back. And, I'll never forget that. You can find Laura at laura-bean, bean.com. And thanks, Beanie. Love ya.
And that'll do for today. If you're enjoying the show, there are a few ways you can support us. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple Music, Amazon, or YouTube itself, you can leave us a review. A YouTube comment would absolutely make my day.
I was going to say, I don't think you can review YouTube channels, but you can definitely comment on videos. Please, please, thank you, please. We're also both on LinkedIn. I'm Mel Barfield and he's Ben McKinney. So do connect with us there as well. And if you leave us a testimonial, that would be great. So we can brag. We should do some bragging because we've had some lovely words in from people. Thank you very much if you sent stuff in. We'd love to be able to kind of show other people why they should listen. So let us know if you enjoy the show.
And if you're really enjoying the show, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/indie business club. Ko-fi is KO-FI. Every penny of your contributions helps us to keep making the show. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Also known as, because I haven't done it for a little while, Kilo Oscar Foxtrotindigo.com.
Yeah, but the fact
you thought I'd moved on.
I did, yeah. I'm pleased to see the phonetic alphabet come back. However, saying hyphen, I think people are now going to think it's KOHFI, but it's not.
Hyphen is not the phonetic word for H in the alphabet. It is hotel. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.